Okay, so when do we use slice, topspin, or a drive on the approach shot, and how's it related to the bounce of the ball? All right, so first off, let's get into the low bouncing approach shot. I think as a lot of you out there know, I'm not a huge fan of using slice on my forehand side. I love my backhand slice. I try to avoid using slice on my forehand simply because I just feel like there's too many times where topspin is a really viable option. What I will say is this: we're going to work in terms of height going up and down our body to decide which of these shots is appropriate to use on approach. So what I always think is when I get into this kind of no man's land zone for my approach shot, if the ball that came in is only about a foot high or lower, okay? So maybe from the top of my sock down to my shoe, even on my forehand side, I'll find myself using slice. And the reason for that is simply, you know, a slice allows for good reach out to a low ball. So if you'll notice, when Mark feeds me an approach shot, albeit, you know, basically a really bad shot from him, he's hit it that low, I'll have to switch my grip into continental and work a little bit of a slice. Okay, so you can see how low that ball was. En route to the ball, switch the grip. It's so low to the ground, slice actually does make a lot of sense. I would do the same thing on the backhand. Okay, so you can see, not the most comfortable of approach shots, but slice works. So anything from about a foot off the ground and lower, slice is actually a really good option. In terms of directing that ball, I would never hit a forehand slice anywhere but down the line. I want more of that straight shot because I don't practice a forehand slice all that often. Straight shot into the backhand, and I'm definitely getting a volley after that, so you got to close. Backhand side, because I use a slice more often, even though this is down low, I feel like I can go both directions with the backhand side. All right, so now working into a topspin approach shot. The appropriate height coming up and down my body would be anywhere from a foot high, so top of my sock, to about 4 feet high. And the reason for that window is the height of the net. The height of the net is 3.5 feet high. So I feel like a ball that's a foot off the ground to 4 feet off the ground, if I were to come up and say, drive the ball flat, I'm getting very little, if not any, net clearance. So I've got to hit some topspin in that 1 foot to 4 foot window to work the ball up and over the net. So let's have a look at something kind of in that middle range. Okay, so that felt just kind of, you know, middle of the road, maybe waist high. What I don't want you guys doing is going out saying, well, that was 3 feet 9 inches high. Okay, I'm going to hit topspin. Oh, no, wait, it's 4 feet 2 inches high. You know, I've got to hit something else. It's always a feel thing. I know for sure that ball is not really sitting up and it's not way down. So I'm going to see something else from Mark here. It won't be the same ball, but it'll probably be something again. Right, so that felt a little lower, but it didn't feel a foot off the ground or lower than that. So topspin again there. Let's see the backhand side. Okay, so again, that's just that middle of the road ball. I don't feel like I can flatten that out because it might get swallowed up by the net. I also definitely don't just want to hit slice there like a lot of players out there do, because a slice generally is less damaging than that nice topspin ball. And the cool thing is once you're hitting topspin from either here, you know, between that 1 and 4 foot window, or on the backhand side, depending on how much spin you're getting, we can really start to utilize a lot of the tennis court on the opponent's side in terms of target, okay? All right, so that leaves with what's going to occur on a ball that bounces higher than 4 feet. The only shot we haven't seen is that flat drive, which again is I'm going to level out my swing. I'm probably upping that level of intensity or aggressiveness, and I'm trying to swing more kind of straight through the tennis ball. There is still some topspin on this. Be very clear on that. This is not a dead flat ball. It's just less topspin than when the ball's sitting lower. Cool thing about this, the opponents hit a really bad shot. They're expecting a really good ball from me, so good chance they're feeling very defensive, and I just get to tee it up. Could hit this on the rise, could do a number of things with this ball. So let's look at something that sits up here on the approach higher than 4 feet. Yeah, really fun ball right there. One of my favorite shots to hit. This would probably be the instance where maybe I get a volley after I've hit it, but pretty good chance I could also hit a ton of winners with this shot. Let's see one more. If I had to hit that volley there off that approach shot, Federer better be on the other side of the court, okay? So you can see I'm just really swinging level with that ball, and it's an idea I can only use when there's built-in net clearance between my contact point and the top of the tape. Once I am dealing with a ball that's going to be struck around the height of the net or lower, we cannot think about hitting a flat drive because it should go in the net, okay? So there's the 3 instances. Slice, topspin, drive. Base it on the height of the ball bouncing in relation to your body and to the top of the net, and it should clear up any issue about which shot is the appropriate shot when you're coming into approach. So basically, the question here is, where is the ideal position at the net? And basically, how do I go about split stepping at the right time to reach that ideal position at some point in a rally? All right, so let's go ahead and show you where the ideal position is in my book when we are at the net. I'm always thinking that a couple steps inside the service line allows me to feel like I'm in an attacking volley position with the ability to hit angles and still cover any decent lob from my opponent. So let's have a look from this position. Okay, and there was a third ball. I'm really actually able to handle the low ball, albeit it's still a tough shot, but I can handle that low ball pretty well from this position. So let's just go ahead and say ideal volley position would be, 3 feet inside the service line. A lot of players out there think that it's much closer. All right, so the issue with this, unless I'm hitting just one ball where I've moved into this spot, is clearly that if the opponent rips a ball at me, I don't have a ton of reaction time. I got pretty lucky there, but my racket actually hit me in the body. And I'm 6'7", and I would say, how am I going to cover a lob? So common misconception is that off an approach shot, that ideal position is way up here, and there's just not a lot of option to be able to cover anything but a floated weak ball, okay? On the flip side of that, and this is, I get it, is a mistake a lot of people make, but after hitting what might be a really decent approach shot, if we watch the result of our approach shot too long, we maybe only get to our first volley around this position, and now all of a sudden I cannot cover angle. Okay? Anything that floats out in front of me might now be, you know, a little too far to go where it's now not too offensive of a shot. So be very careful of that pitfall where we're not getting in far enough. Now, in terms of the split step, we've got to make sure that we're split stepping right about the time that the opponent is making contact. And it's not something that I feel forced about. I should feel like a split step is a really natural, essential part of playing well up here at the net. So as my opponent, as I'm coming into this ideal position, is about to hit, that's when my split step occurs. If I do it a little bit too soon, I'm kind of back to that stuck in the mud type feeling. So it's very key after the approach shot, the opponent's winding up and they're about to make contact. Really important that that split step occurs about right at the time they're making impact. Now, I generally feel at the speed of the game today that an approach shot might occur from, say, no man's land here. All right, speed of the game, I might only get to about the service line, have that first volley, and now I'm trying to get to that ideal net position. So I'd be coming in, split again, and that's really where I can make hay. So be very careful about, you know, hitting and watching the shot too long, hitting, just charging way too far, never split stepping, and plan on probably 2 volleys before you're really settled in at the net, because it's just rare to get to that perfect, ideal position right after the approach shot. The strings, the rackets, the game's moving a little too fast. We got to be a little more patient, probably hit 1 good deep volley from around the service line, advance a few more steps, and then start to really cut into that opponent with angles, drops, all that good stuff. Okay, so that's really the key. Approach shot, ideal position, inside the service line, but be okay with 1 volley occurring around the service line, and every time they hit the ball, you are split stepping right about the time they're making contact. All right, so how do we approach against a pusher? Simply put, I totally understand that there are pushers out there that do damage with their lobs. And I'm not getting any younger, so covering back after I have approached in, even though I'm tall, you know, I get it. It's tough to go deep. And let's say you're a 3-5 and you're just not that skilled hitting overheads. So what I would initially say is this, that, you know, the ideal position is a couple steps inside the service line. So if I'm a little slow going back, I've got a great lobber on the other side, I get there's times we don't get back. So if you want to hang back a little bit when you know that the opponent's a pusher, I'll sign off on that. But by hang back, I'm not talking about this. Maybe 1 step inside the service line. So from this position, if the lob goes up, you know, hopefully just saving a step or 2 is enough to help you to be able to hit some overheads. Now, what I think's really probably lacking here in order to play the style that I think a lot of you want to play, the quality of the approach shot has to improve against a pusher. You know, if I'm coming in, Mark's a pusher, he's got a good lob, and my approach shot, you know, is flat, not ultra deep, he's running 2 steps over there, I'm going to guarantee that he hits a good lob. So how do we improve the quality of the approach shot? Topspin, better placement, a little more racket speed. So I want everybody out there, you know, kind of inviting the opportunity to hit a bigger approach shot. All right, so something that maybe isn't a winner, that went to the exact same spot, and Mark might cruise over there and still try to lob me. What I'm banking on is that the quality of his lob is going to be significantly reduced. And so now I'm not dealing with a lob that's hitting the baseline. It's maybe a floating volley that I move into, or a shorter lob. You know, something that helps my cause here because I am trying to get in. Let me give you guys a play that I think really helps on the approach against a good pusher. Utilizing the slice to keep the ball down to a pusher makes lobbing for them a lot tougher, okay? I think if you go out and watch good pushers, they lob amazing from these types of positions. Even from the body, if the ball is up, they can lob great. Once the ball is low, they're not going to be lobbing you as effectively. So what's the shot I can hit to make him have to deal with a low ball? It's my slice. The other thing I like is trying to pull him in. Okay, if Mark comes up and I shorten the distance between him and the net, he has to exercise a little more caution on his lob because he doesn't have as much court to work with. So it's this shorter slice play. Have a look. I'm going to hit a short slice off the backhand side. Ah! The pusher is just going to take it on the chin. Trust me. Now, I really do like that play. Try to stick to the backhand side. I've just kind of noticed as I get so many questions about pushers and how to deal with them, the backhand lob tends to be a little weaker than their forehand lob. So I'll play that little low slice, hopefully to the backhand side, bring him in, and then just look to pound that next ball. Really good idea to keep the ball low to a pusher to negate that really high, deep lob. All right, so down the line versus cross-court approach. For me, we've got to get into this idea of not just vertical movement, but lateral movement, okay? And those two terms, you know, have to do with, obviously, the direction I'm running. When I think vertically, I think of moving up through the court or back on the court. So with an approach shot, I'm obviously talking about moving up inside the baseline. A lot of times this is where a lot of you players out there get stuck. You're only thinking about moving vertically, and I got to get in, got to get in, got to get in, got to put a ball away. And if we don't latch on to this idea of lateral footwork and ultimately following the direction of the tennis ball, we're going to get burned by a ton of passing shots. So let me break down this idea of lateral footwork. When I come in on my approach shot, yeah, let me take a ball. Thanks, Mark. Okay, let's take the down the line, for example. If I hit down the line on my approach shot and Mark goes right to there, if I only think about moving vertically and therefore come to the center of the court, what I'm not doing is factoring the high percentage versus low percentage shots that Mark could hit from that position. One high percentage shot he has would be down the line. Absolutely, he's going to have that shot. So from the middle of the court, I can't cover that ball. He could absolutely hit back to the middle. His third option would be a hard cross-court angle over here. Now, that's off a drop hit. Generally, the lowest percentage shot that your opponent can execute if you strike a nice approach shot is that hard cross-court angle. The down the line and the down the middle ball are the more high percentage plays. All right, so here's how I tack on the idea of lateral footwork. I'll take that ball, please, Mark. Okay, so I'm going to go in on this down the line approach, and I'm going to try to position where I can cover both of his high percentage plays. Okay, so there I am. I'm going to have a good chance to reach out and cover most of the line. I obviously don't want to cover the actual line. That means I'm giving up a little too much room probably back this way. If he goes middle, I've obviously got my backhand volley covering the middle. And if he pulls off a hard cross-court angle, you know, I can make a go for it, but generally if he executes that shot, I'm just applauding a really good shot to a tough position. So that's this idea of lateral footwork, is following the path of the tennis ball that you yourself have just hit. So now, if I hit a cross-court approach off my forehand side and swing him out wide, again, here's some lateral footwork on my part. I've got to cover the down-the-line ball on his forehand. I've got to cover the middle ball. And I unfortunately have to give up. I know we don't like this idea of giving up part of the tennis court, but we do have to give up a little bit of court, and it should be to the low percentage side. So you ask yourself, all right, well, Mark's forehand's pretty good, but the shot we're talking about is like a whipping cross-court angle. He might be able to hit that, but I know for a fact he can hit just a straight down-the-line forehand. So I've got to take away those two shots that come a little bit easier to him. All right, so very important that we don't just think of our approach shots with regard to vertical footwork, but now lateral footwork and covering the direction that we hit into. So now we come to the question, what's better, down the line or cross court? And I think there's a ton of value in both of these. All right, Mark's going to feed me an approach shot right now. I'm going to go down the line. I love the fact that it's to his backhand. I love the fact that I don't have as much lateral footwork. You guys will notice that by going into this side, I'm already on this half of the court. So it's less lateral footwork to cover a down-the-line approach shot. So let's have a peek here. Okay. I didn't know where he's taking that next ball, but really felt like it just found my racket because I put myself in a good position following the tennis ball. Let's have a look at the cross-court approach shot. Now, I love this one too, and I was coached a little bit old school. I was told always approach line. Take the straight route through the ball, move yourself kind of straight in behind the shot. Nowadays, there's too much value to ignore the cross-court side. When I go that way, you're going to notice how much more I can pull Mark off the tennis court compared to down the line. The one drawback as I hit this cross-court ball is that as Mark moves more, I have more lateral footwork now to produce. All right, so definitely, obviously, I had to cross over the middle of the court and move a little more myself, but Mark is out by the double sideline. That is nothing I could ever get him to do if I approached with my forehand down the line. He would stay more on the inside of the singles court. So unfortunately, more footwork for him is more footwork for me, but he's so stretched out, a lot of players get very defensive there. The one other good takeaway that I really like on the cross-court approach is that because my target feels bigger, for all of you out there that are struggling with hitting maybe a little bit too much of a weak approach or calculating a little too much to just go focus on volleys, that cross-court approach, I always feel allows me to really tee off on the ball. You know, this swing that I could make cross-court, I feel like gives me a lot better chance to really attack my approach shots, where down the line, I am a little more calculating. I'm still trying to swing freely at the ball, obviously, but need to be a little more precise, a little less focused on my power. So cross-court's probably a very good idea for all of you out there that are feeling a little bit reserved and not seeing enough explosiveness off the approach shot, okay? So tie all that in. We are obviously working vertically through the court on the approach shot. Start to work that lateral footwork where you are following the path of the tennis ball. and then allow yourself, to go a little more aggressive into those cross-court approach shots. All right, so the idea is disguise or just mixing up the approach shots. Here's my 2 cents on disguise, okay? If somebody hits me a short ball and I flash a big forehand here and then hit a drop shot, that's disguise or trickery. I'm showing off a shot and then basically hitting the exact opposite. Now, I think a lot of you out there understand, once in a while I might do that, but I don't want the meat and potatoes of my approach shots to be trickery. I feel like at the club level, that causes a lot of indecision, and all of a sudden, we're kind of messing up what should be an advantage ball for ourselves. So the conversation here really is about shot selection, okay? So to get into shot selection, I'm going to simply say this. There are statisticians at the ATP level that have broken down the approach shot percentage of winning the rally going into the backhand versus the forehand, and the numbers hugely favor going into the backhand. And this is against pros, okay? And I know a lot of you out there have responded, Brady, I love my backhand. I get it. I'm not saying the backhand is such a weak shot that it's always a problem. It's just, it's favorable to hit approach shots to the backhand versus the forehand. So we've talked previously about approaching line, and simply the idea of my follow-up footwork gets to be more straight ahead, and generally it's to their weaker side. So I always feel like 3 out of 4, probably 4 out of 5 times that I approach, I'm going to go into the backhand. So let's see if I can have some success here doing that. Yeah, love that play, okay? I mean, look, I just feel like this guy over there, if I hit the exact same approach shot cross court, or I use my backhand into his forehand, I don't feel that comfortable coming in. Now, let's hope over the course of a match that Mark never really understands that idea, that I'm just picking on his backhand. At that rate, I might never switch it up. I might go in there all day long. But I think what you will start to find in terms of having your variety, mixing it up a little bit, is that if I go to Mark's backhand 3 or 4 times in a row with approach shots, he's going to start to get tipped off, and I should see him shade over a little bit. He wants to start to get over there a little sooner. Guess what's going to come at that point? Okay, and now he's kind of snuck over to that side, and now I've got an open court winner to his forehand. Maybe he scrambles over there, change of direction. I'm still hugely in the advantage there. All right, so that's for me really where the variety lies, is play a ton more approach shots into that side, and hopefully they never figure it out, and if they do, that's when you start mixing it up to the other side. Now, with regard to opponents knowing where you're hitting the ball, I mean, let's be honest. Mark, can I get 2 tennis balls over here? If I'm in open stance on a forehand approach, set up like this, and my opponent somehow knows where I'm hitting, they've got something strange going on in their brain that I need to get a part of. Because nothing in my technique tips off even the best players in the world to where I'm hitting. Because all the direction that I'm going to use happens in the last second. There's nothing going on as I move up, nothing in my swing that is going to let him know. So here's a drop feed. Mark, you have any idea where I was going there? Okay, let's see the next one. He should have no clue where I'm hitting. So I don't want to, jump the shark here and start worrying so much that he knows where I'm going that I've got to create disguise or trickery on this shot. Let's stick to what works. Great strokes. Force him to really kind of play against his weakness. See if that opens up the other side of the court. If it does, that's when I really start to mix up the direction of the approach shots.